Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone watching us in DNP Unlocked. This is our DNP Unlocked episode 33 called Ethical Recruitment for Nurses. We have a lot of issues here. And I just posted in my LinkedIn, I titled this as Houston, we have a problem in international ethical recruitment topic. So wait for our co-host, Paul. I just want to say hi to everyone watching this show. Please, if you are in other countries, please write down where you are. If you're in the United States, let me know which city you are and city and state. So let's see. From the comments, Nars Nomi, hello, sweet Sagittarius K. Hello, good evening. Jester Ramos, hello. Pat, hello. Irene George, Annalyn, Flora Rojas, Kai Castro, and Jay Morrow. Hello. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Philippines, Finland here from Irene. Singapore, Colorado. Wow, we are on fire here with our watchers, our viewers, and listeners from different parts of the world. Thank you so much for joining us every Sunday. And for those people who are watching us in the United States, thank you for sharing us this 1 hour from your nice long weekend for Memorial Weekend. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is a very good topic that we're going to discuss because this is where a lot of issues comes in when our questions when nurses come calling me or texting me. This is my like, all right, we have a problem here about this ethical recruitment. Um, just for the background, my name is Kay. I'm also called Travel Nurse Hacker. And why am I Travel Nurse Hacker? So, in my experience in 17 years of travel nursing, I read contracts, I look at different companies, I deal with recruiters. And I will tell you, it's very, very difficult out there to see who's the good one. It took me more than 40 agencies to have to be working with to find out that there's only five of them who are actually good to deal with. So, what I'm saying, like, the chances that you're going to land an ethical recruiter or recruitment agency is very, very slim. There are more than 500 staffing companies in the United States. We're not even talking about immigration lawyers who's helping nurses come to the United States. We're not even there yet. Individual organization, headhunters. So, what are the chances that you're going to land a very good, transparent, and ethical recruiter? It's very, very low. And I would say low means not even close to 10%. Okay. So, why do we need it? This is very important now to emphasize and educate a lot of our nurse leaders because we have a tsunami of lawsuits and problems here in the United States. And one main problem there is, of course, lack of transparency. Um, Nurses did not understand what they're signing because even me, I'm here in the United States. When I read these international contracts of nurses, I cannot even understand it all. I would understand some. If it's a job offer, I would understand it. But if it's like deep legal jargon contracts, it's just so hard to understand. Even if you're experienced professional here in the United States, you still need to get a lawyer to explain that to you. But the limitation there is a lot of lawyers here in the United States do not really understand how our nursing work goes. And this is where the problem comes. There's that gray area of knowledge between the lawyers, between the agencies, between the hospital, and between the nurses. So there are in the middle of those things, there are information that needs to be shared and actually explained, but because each person has very different specialty, they don't know how each other works. So again, the need for people to come out who's very good in international recruitment for nurses who have background in contract reading, we really need you. Come out and help us. We are overflowing with message. My inbox always have like more than 50 messages and I'm trying to catch up. Last night I just stayed like around 2 o'clock just to catch up with my messages all the way from 1 month ago. But don't worry, here we are. We're going to explain this to you and we're going to talk about it and why we need to educate is very important because a lot of people who came here in the United States first are always saying, this is what we have done in many years, and this is the normal. And when I checked those, I said, those are not normal and it has to stop. We need to change this. And I call on international nursing workforce, international organizations for nurses, and our government bodies to please help us. The nursing workforce is needed internationally, but if we don't put measures there or code of ethics to follow, it's not only that we're hurting the nursing workforce, we're also hurting the donor countries where this coming from, and we can also be affecting the quality of healthcare in the whole world. And at one point, nurses from our advanced countries will get that into our butt, right? Because it will catch up. All right. So anyway, going back, let me see the comments. Where are you watching and listening from? Jonalyn is watching from Saudi Arabia. Jemina is Philippines. Eva is in the Philippines. Joanne is from UK. Ryan, hi from PGH. You mean Philippine General Hospital, correct? PGH. Kai is watching from Philippines. Villanar. GM Corpus. Pat John from Nigeria. Hi, Paul. Good
Good
morning.
morning, Kay. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is a very topic that I love the most, and this is my advocacy, and we're very happy to. I'm very excited to share this information with you all.
Right.
Uh,
It's very timely as well, Kay, because we've been hearing a lot of news recently about immigration and some fly-by-night agencies or even established agencies still getting in trouble, right? Based on our
it-
conversation.
yeah, even the most established, exactly, the most experienced one will always have some issues. Imagine, Paul, that even the most experienced one have issues and lawsuits. What more the small ones, right? Are they doing the right one? Are we following the code of ethics of international recruitment? All right. So those
Right.
are the
Right.
good topics that we have to discuss. But for now, we're just watching the comments flow and reading where they are. Where did I stop earlier? SJ. SJ question the parameters and we need to consider versus. So SJ, we're gonna go discuss that shortly. And Maulang Gabi. Maulang Gabi, what dialect is that? Maulang Gabi from Manila. That's not Tagalog. I'm so hungry, SJ. I haven't eaten. I was reading it as like maulam. Maulam, right? Maulam is like the dish.
It's Tagalog. It means it's rainy. But anyway, Kay, I have several announcements today. Welcome to everybody again. Thank you for joining our episode 33, Kay. We've been through a lot of episodes already, but I am happy to announce that, Kay, officially we are now podcasters because DNP Unlocked, Disruptive Nurse Perspective, an Immigrant podcast, is now live in Apple and
Yay!
Spotify. So, guys, go download Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can stream DNP Unlocked episodes there. We are official. We are live in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We are also in Amazon Music, YouTube, and many other apps. So please look for DNP Unlocked in your favorite podcast app, and you will find us there. Can you guys do us a favor and look for us in Apple and Spotify today so you can put it on your phones and you can hear all the things that we've talked about since day one in DNP Unlocked. Okay, congratulations to us. I hope Anna is here.
Yay! Congratulations to all of us. Please download in podcast. You will learn a lot on the topics that we are discussing here that is not usually discussed outside. So trust me, I've watched all the YouTubes. I watched those those things that are being exchanged in social media. What we're delivering here, you won't hear it anywhere. This is the only
Correct,
place
correct.
you hear it. All right, so Paul, let's start. I think I
Okay,
like
one more
going by
thing.
Savar. Oh yeah, go ahead.
One more thing before we start, Kay. I'm sorry. I know this is your favorite topic, but today, before the end of the show, Kay, I'm giving out one free NCLEX review course from Aspire RN and Dr. Nurse Paul for our raffle today. All they gotta do, Kay, is go to this link in the QR code we're gonna flash right now. Let's see if we have it. Go to that link, fill out the forms, and later we're gonna live stream the raffle using our digital spinner. And probably we can also post the link to the forms in our comments section. We're gonna post it right now via our moderator. So we're gonna post the link. There you go. We're posting it in the Dr. Nurse Paul page. Okay, you want to put it in your pages as well. Um, but this is the link to the forms. All you got to do is answer the form. It's very quick, less than 1 minute, and then you join the raffle. You only have to do it once. The thing will automatically remove
Let,
duplicates.
let
And
me scan it. I'm gonna
and then
join.
you can join. Okay, okay. And then we're gonna spin the wheel live later before the end of the show. And the only other mechanic is you gotta be here when the announcement for the winner is done. You gotta be able to claim your prize during the live show. So this is only 1 hour, K, and I'm so excited to do this. We haven't done raffle before in our other DNP Unlocked, but it's the end of the Nurses Month, Nurses Week. So I want to give back to our community. One free NCLEX review course worth $550. That's 1 year unlimited with 98 pass rate from DNP and Aspire RN. And we will award
Wow,
that today
95%.
with personal
Uh,
mentorships from Dr. Nurse Paul.
that's awesome. Congratulations, Paul. 95% review center pass rate.
90,
That is a
98,
lot.
98.
98%. That is awesome. That
We
is a good quality.
we take pride with what
Yay.
we do. We're not we go
Yeah.
by quality, not by quantity. Because for me, at the end of
Absolutely.
the day, I've been in the industry for 17 years. K. For me, even if I crank up numbers and you know compete by numbers, it's not gonna improve my pass rates. It's not gonna improve my quality. So I am for quality. I am for nurses who trust me. We have so many great stories with
Yeah.
nurses, even those who failed the NCLEX multiple times. But that's it. You're gonna be able to join my classes for free if you join the raffle
Yeah.
today. We're gonna flash this QR code every now and then during the show. Okay. All right.
That's
And
awesome.
we are now going to the show proper. This is Kay's favorite topic. This is also my favorite topic. And we want to end the Nurses Month by talking about ethical recruitment. So I give the floor to my dear co-hosts, Travel Nursing Hacker Kay.
So thank you very much, Paul. So I always like to discuss things in a way that we are taught in nursing. S bar, right? S bar. What is an S bar? Situation, background, assessment, and recommendation. Because I think, do you know the history of S bar, Paul? By any chance? So anybody who knows the history of S bar, when was this created? Who created this? Put it in the chat. I'm gonna give you
I,
free NCLEX exam fee.
there you go. We're gonna have another raffle today. Two winners. No, no. But I'm not sure, Kay. I
So
don't know where S
actually,
bar came from. Yeah.
S-bar came from how military operated. So this was initiated during on the military. A lot of things that you see in healthcare actually started from military. Um, but again, S-bar is the way how our military people give background or of the situation briefly, and it's very organized. So that's how I like to go most of the way with the topics that we will discuss. So what's going on? Why are we discussing this? During the pandemic, a lot of nurses left their bedside and hop into travel nursing. Yeah, Jester Ramos says as first introduced in the United States military in 1940. Yay! So anyway, so that's how we would like to discuss this because it's very time constrained. So situation right now is 2020. A lot of nurses, got out of their old jobs and then joined the travel nurse workforce where the COVID crisis were. That time opened up, for a lot of jobs for international nurses. And then there were a tsunami of of applicants, coming, because everybody says we need nurses, please come. I know healthcare systems were like hiring 200 nurses at one time, 500 nurses. So they call this job offer. So this US employers were putting job offers outside the United States and telling all these nurses to come here. And there were even like really ethical and moral issues there, because even the Philippines, remember, Paul, that the former president actually like stopped nurses from leaving the Philippines, right? There were like a stop. They
This
implemented a
happened
law, right?
during the pandemic. Yeah, they
Yeah,
stopped
during the
every
pandemic.
nurse migrating outside the Philippines. Yep. So that created a lot of talks and a
Yeah.
lot of criticisms to the government because yep, they stopped nurses from leaving the Philippines.
Yeah, so it creates a lot of problem, and one of the big problem then, if of course, is resources, healthcare resources for our, are we draining that country? There were a lot of questions. Are we poaching these nurses from different countries? But I would say that, of course, poaching for me is not poaching when you are actually, having like long-term agreement between different countries. So a lot of these questions are raising: are we poaching nurses internationally? I always stand against the word poaching if there are um, policies between the donor and the recipient countries on how to make it sustainable. Because, Paul, it's very important what we're doing here is sustainable. Yes, we need nurses to come and help our advanced countries, but we also have a need from these countries, and it shouldn't be in a massive way. If I'm a hospital with 500 nurses, I should not be hiring 500 nurses internationally too, because that is absolutely like ridiculous to hire 100% of your workforce internationally. But do we need nurses international? The answer is yes. The production of nurses in the United States is not enough. We have a shortage of educators, right? And we have a shortage of actual nurses who will come here. We have shortage of experienced nurses. But we have a lot of new grads. When I was in New York, they would come to me, Kay, I just passed my NCLEX, but it's almost 6 months I couldn't get a job because these employers want experience. And I said, well, that's their requirement, then that's what they will want to get, right? Unfortunately, when I was new here in the United States back in 2006, I couldn't find an employer. I have submitted 30 of my applications and only five responded. I think five responded and one gave me an actual interview. So, is there really a shortage? So, for me, the way I see it, there is a shortage, but it's not like 100% of your hospital needs needs to be replaced. So yes, there might be a need for some and few, but absolutely not in a lot, just enough to cover for those organic nurses that we have here in the United States. So what is the problem here? It's not only that ethical. I think the most problem that came from this migration, Paul, is the rise of illegal recruiters, the rise of inexperienced international recruitment who does not know that nursing job is not your burger flipper. Okay, it comes with a life. And when you put our international nurses into horrible working condition, then that's where the problem will come in. And a lot of these international nurses, they would say, I've been doing this in my country. This is normal, right? And what are those? Coercion, harassment, discrimination, threats. You will see that in countries where there is poor law in labor, right? But here in the United States, we have very strong labor laws to protect our workforce, especially nurses. And a lot of these contract provisions that we saw are illegal. Paul, give me ex- one of your worst story from our international workforce that landed in your
Oh,
desk.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they came over here and so they got a job offer. The last step to getting the visa is to actually show up in the consul, present a job offer within the last 30 days, K, even if they were hired 10 years ago. Which means they were given job offer, they have a hospital, they have a per hourly rate within the last 30 days before they got their visa. They got their visa, they got here to the States, K. They got here to the States, all right? No job. All right. 8 months. No job, no stipend. All right. They were told to live with their families for 8 months. All right. You know what the agency told them? Apply to Walmart and work. So some nurses, actually, if you are this nurse, I want to talk to you. Gonna put you in private. If your agency talked to you before and told you and forced you to apply to Walmart while waiting for a job, I want to talk to you. Okay, they were asked to work for Walmart. This is 2018, 2019. You probably know my favorite agency. That this is what they did. This is one of the most ridiculous things that I've ever heard, and that really what started my activity in the group, right? Advocating for nurses. But there are so many things. Okay, they came over here. They were put in nursing homes when they were promised another job. They were pediatric nurses, but they were given med surge or CCU assignments. Or the worst part is they were moved to another state and the hourly rate was not honored. So many.
Yeah, it's so many of them, but I want to highlight like the two. I mean, actually three. I'll give you three examples of what actually happened. One of the highest profile case, if you look it up, I'm not making this up. Look it up. It's the case of Sentosa. This is way back in 2007, 2008,
They
2006.
were popular that time, Kay.
Very popular, and if you even if you use chat gpt, probably that will even come up, as that is very
Mhm,
high profile case. A lot
mhm,
of nursing organizations, it's including the Philippine Nurse Association, were actually like went into what do you call this, rally. They went into rally on the streets, having all those big banners and announcement to support this Sentosa nurses. So what happened there, Paul? Sentosa nurses were working in a nursing home facility, and because I think they were overwhelmed with so many patients, and they felt like their lives were at risk, so they consulted a lawyer, and the lawyer said, "You guys should quit, or you can quit like that, okay?" But anyway, the advice came up to the point that the nurses quit after they approached the lawyer, and then when the nurses quit, they were sued, Paul. They were sued for abandonment of patient, putting the patients in jeopardy, and and it was actually a lawsuit that they put. The put was it was criminally charged by the employer. But mind you, Paul, when I heard that story, I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" That was my reaction,
right, right, right.
because I said, abandonment only happens when you're in the actual shift and
Exactly.
nobody came to relieve you, and you left the patient. But that did not happen. What happened
Mm-hmm.
actually was the nurses were off that day when they submitted their resignation. They left. So technically they were not in the facility. It was not the exact day that they left the patients. So they were off. They were not in the hospital. They were relieved of their duties already. And then they consulted a lawyer, and then they quit. So after many many years of investigation, the nurses were acquitted. But before they were acquitted, the torture and the trauma they experienced, Paul, they were handcuffed and was put to jail. They were.
Wow.
They were
Mhm,
handcuffed and was put to jail. So again, if you're watching and listening this, so again, read into that story is called Sentosa Nursing Lawsuit, and it
mhm,
will give you that experience, that story, that these were nurses who came here in the United States and have
mhm.
no resources, no family here in the United States. Imagine being locked up in a jail.
Yeah.
Imagine the trauma of that. And then the worst is even their lawyer was put into jail. And
Wow.
it was crazy, and to the point that
Mhm,
the Philippine government has to step in. This is wrong. And again, after many years, the Supreme Court ruled that this is a retaliation thing that happened. I mean, it's very obvious in my opinion, but sometimes you just land on the wrong people in the wrong timing, and it's worse. So that is one of the big case there. The other one that recently came to me, Paul, are
mhm.
nurses who quit their horrible working condition jobs, and they were even sued up to 400,000 US dollar. That is one
Wow.
case in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pennsylvania. Again,
Crazy, right?
400,000 US dollar. You get sued, and they
Right.
tell you, oh, you because you accumulated damages to our company. But let me
Yeah.
tell you, That even if you look into Google reviews, that company has very poor stars, right?
Right.
Even if you look into those, even if you look to what do you call this one, CMS report, and ProPublica, actually the ProPublica nursing home report, this even have way more 50, way beyond 50% retention rate of nurses, which means almost everyone's quitting half a year, right?
Right.
Half of the
Right.
nurses would quit. And there is a reason for that. So again, these are like samples of those cases. And recently, we have nurses that came here. It's the same thing. There's no job that was, as promised. And they said, we're gonna be an employee of us. We're gonna sponsor you to come to the United States. And even the contract says full-time nurse. Even the immigration document says full-time RN employee, right? But when the nurse arrived here, they were not they were not employees. So the company said, "Oh, you're going to be 1099. You're going to be contractor." For the background of everybody watching, the two tax indicator, if you're an employee, is it called your W2 income earner. And then there is another one called 1099, which means that you are a contractor, which means that you will have
Mm-hmm.
to pay your own taxes, you will have to pay your own benefits. You are not an employee of the hospital. It's like you're a business person coming into that facility.
That's tax
And
fraud.
not only tax fraud, it's immigration fraud, it's tax
It's
fraud, it's
immigration fraud. Yeah.
it's a lot of fraud there. Because what happened to these nurses are, they said, oh, by the way, it's not only nurses. We're talking about PT, med tech, and teachers
Wow.
actually
Mm-hmm.
are having this similar contracts. So when they arrive here, the housing, the housing that was given to them was one of
Mm-hmm.
the vacant rooms in the nursing home.
That's wild.
One of the So aside from the nurse now being told that no, you are not an employee of our company, you will have to pay your own taxes, you have to get your own health insurance, your housing is that empty room in that nursing home, right? And then here it come, the nurse was working. You know what happened during the survey? He was passing meds, and then he got a call from the supervisor saying, you're gonna have to remove our stuff from your room. You're gonna have to move it somewhere else, right? So imagine
Because
in the middle of
state
you have a home.
accreditation.
Yeah,
Oh my
there was
god.
an accreditation, there was a survey,
I would
and
have stayed.
the
I would have
management
stayed.
said said, I'm laughing because not I'm not laughing because this is funny. It's funny, but it's disgusting
It is. Yep.
that is happening. And this is being done by colleagues in the nursing field who are nurse leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And it is disgusting. I'm laughing because that person, that nurse who's the leadership on that, is going to get in trouble. Okay. So just
Mm-hmm.
fun FYI. So anyway, the nurse were told, you're going to have to remove all your stuff there. You're going to have to take it out because the surveyors are here. So imagine in the middle of you working your professional job, you're homeless technically. Um, Eventually, the nurse were sent to a different housing, which is better now. And, unfortunately, this is still happening. The threats are there, the coercions are there. A lot of our nurses are being given misrepresented jobs. A nurse came here in Pennsylvania and said, "You will have a job as a nurse." And the nurse said, "Wait, I cannot come there yet because I don't have a license yet. My endorsement is not done yet." Even the nurse, international nurse herself, knows what she's saying. And now the person who's recruiting here, not even a healthcare background, just a recruiter, random recruiter with random background, said, "You just can come here, just do your job and come here." Of course, you cannot work without license. We all know that. She was offered the job to be in the dietary in that facility. Just help for how much is that? $14 an hour, Paul. I think it was
Wow.
$14 an hour. I said,
Yeah.
this is way more half. And what the problem now here is, these people come with dependence. And that's where the tragedy comes in. When you come with dependence and you work or deal with this horrible unethical recruitment, you have a lot of problem that will come to your face right now. Either you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be sleeping on the street, you're gonna find stubs, like what have food stamps for your kids and your family
Right,
because
right.
yeah, because
There's
those
not enough
salaries.
money
Yeah.
to thrive as a new grad, right? As a new
Mm.
immigrant nurse. I'm sorry. Like that's ridiculous. And
Mm-hmm.
the sad part, Kay, is people may be just hearing these stories from us, but these are real stories that actually happen to our nurses. This is the ugly side of the immigration. While thousands are getting their American dreams
Yeah.
coming over
Yeah.
here, the truth of the matter is there are still unscrupulous agencies out there that are preying on
Mm-hmm.
the vulnerable immigrant nurses.
Yeah. And a lot of these hospitals right now are actually victims themselves. They are victims themselves because now there is like a lack of transparency. One case in Florida, Paul, the
Hmm.
hospital said we paid for all of these nurses to come here. We paid for their immigration sponsorship. We paid for their other immigration fees. We are even giving them like bonus when they get here to help in the move in the transition. But what happened? The nurses said, "No, we paid for our fees, everything. Already took out 50,000. I'm not sorry, not 50. We already shelled out more than $10,000 to cover for our dependents
The
too."
agencies double dipping, huh?
Exactly. So there were double dipping that was happening, and now these nurses were. Of course, there's a lawsuit in this situation right now, and the hospital said we're not part of that. No, but you're part of it because you are in the lawsuit called RICO violation.
Right.
You might not be guilty of it, but just an FYI, if there's a
Racketeering.
human trafficking lawsuit, and you can be part of that RICO violation. I'm not a lawyer, but if you look at all these cases, yes, they are going after hospitals now who are hiring from these vendors. And I'm not kidding you.
Right, right.
So, but anyway, what are the usual issues of unethical recruitment? So there are unfair contracts. Number one is unfair contracts. Well, we all know that it's a one-sided contract. We all know that. If the nurse quits, the nurse has to pay something. But if the hospital cancels, then there's just no repercussion. And I'm going to give you a big example here. One big hospital system in Texas recently hired a lot of international nurses, way beyond too many. And some of them made it here, but most of them now the hospital said, "We don't need you, we're dumping you." But prior to that dump, those international nurses have already spent thousands of dollars of their years savings. Okay, so I
Hmm.
got messages from yesterday. Kay, it is ridiculous because we already paid more than 1,000 US dollars. We spend almost 1,500 for my family, and this is my savings for 3 years. This is my savings for 2 years. Imagine being robbed off because you were doing unethical recruitment,
Hmm.
and it's you're not only poaching from international, right? You're not only poaching because now you're poaching really because you're not following the rules of the internet of the donor countries, which means ethical recruitment. You just don't hire and dump them. It's called bait and switch, right?
Right.
It's called bait and switch. We all know that this is wrong. And if you follow the Philippine international recruitment, it says there that you have to provide guaranteed jobs. You cannot just do bait and switch. So this is what happening because a lot of these hospitals, hired like hundreds. Fine if you have like thousands of employees, you hire 100, 200. But if you're telling me you only have 500 nursing staff and you hired 200 from the Philippines or international, where are you going to put these nurses when they arrive here? These
Hmm.
nurses will have no job.
Right.
So that's you, Paul, Texas.
Right, right. And I know
Oh,
exactly where that is.
right? It's a big healthcare system,
Mm.
prestigious healthcare system. Why are we doing
That's the
this?
problem with overhiring. So overhiring is not literally illegal, but that's why we're talking about ethical. Because before, Kay, in our previous episodes, we talked about the legal stuff, the red flags, and all that. But it doesn't mean that it is legal that they can do it. It means it's ethical. So yes, it is legal. They can overhire, but you're affecting the lives of these nurses. Some of these gay are already for interview in the consul or probably have gotten their visas already, only to find out they don't have jobs. For me, that's ethical. If you know that you overhired, well, let them go
And,
much earlier so they have a choice, because you tied them up and bound them in your contract, which you're not going to fulfill anyway. So legal, possibly. Ethical, no.
yeah, and this is actually fresh. It's from even up to yesterday. I got
Yep,
people
yep.
crying, calling me, Kay, I just got a visa, but the employer like canceled, right? Employer canceled. This is actually part of that canceled in big healthcare system in Texas, and said we don't have jobs anymore. And now we are literally sold everything already. We sold our house because they said if you're once you're close to coming to the United States, sell. You can now start selling your stuff, your all your belongings. So they sold their house. Now they're living in an apartment until that date they're gonna leave, only to find out they don't have jobs in the United States. Right? It was impacted by that original sponsor person. But again, that new job coming now, they found a new employer, but again, it's still there were processes that are involved that they will have to repay everything again, right? So again,
Mhm.
the devastation is so real. They are like really lost at all in this. So
It's also financial setback, Kay.
it is. Imagine if
Yep.
you have
And
4 kids and then you paid for all of those, right? Yeah, so it is very unfair. So again, there are unfair contracts. There are also grounds for exploitation and abuse through discrimination as well.
mhm.
If you know some as a traveling nurse, Paul, have you ever experienced being discriminated when you were
of
traveling nurse?
of course. I think there's a problem. There's a huge problem everywhere with blending in, and and
Yeah.
being judged for your color or for your stature. Of course, I've been discriminated multiple times. First of all, I'm tiny, right? So I
You're
look like
tiny,
I'm a
you're not
student
tiny.
all the time, right? I'm 5'4", so for the American standards, I'm a very small person. So that kind of makes them feel like I am a student. The other thing is, of course, I'm a brown person, right? I came from the Philippines. That's it. So sometimes patients or coworkers will discriminate you. I've been through a position, K, where I was made felt that I am stealing someone's job because I'm a brown person and I'm an immigrant. I was proud of my heritage. I was proud of my journey, but someone actually nastily joked at me that said, "You're stealing Americans' jobs." Not true, because this job was offered to an American and nobody picked it up. That's the rule of immigration. I got
Yes,
the
right.
position because they offered it to a local. No local want to take it, and immigrants are more likely to stay in the hospital and has better retention. K. So there's that. But I never played that type of game. I go above it and show them what I'm capable of, because that's what we do as immigrant nurses. But yes, discrimination is very real. I did not let it affect me and affect my ability to provide care for my patients.
I experienced the same thing, Paul, when I started my travel nursing. Not only travel, I would say there's always going to be one person in that facility, in that new
Hmm.
workplace.
True,
There's
true.
always going to be one that is going to give you a really hard egg.
Hard time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
always going to be one. Sometimes there'll be one
Bully.
and a half. I would say sometimes there's a one and a half because there's only real one, but then he or she's friend with that person, so kind of like,
Hmm.
okay, so she's half, right, torn to be joining that person or not. But discrimination, as mentioned in our comment, discrimination is everywhere. Absolutely, I agree to that. Discrimination is everywhere, and unfortunately this is most common to those people who are not really educated much about the culture or the background of recruitment and the background of that person. It happens all the time. So one example that happened to me is, say, hey, Kay, you're the contract nurse. You will be doing all the job. And I'm like, what? Right? So I said, it's not fair. We all know this is not fair. Why am I the one who's doing most of the jobs, you know, while they are sitting down there, right, on the side? And I just, you know what? There is this downtime that happens. So fine, take it. But for me, I'm a person who comes to work like I come here to work. That's my mentality. I didn't come to work to sit down, right? So I didn't come here to like make friends and stuff like that. So for me, my mentality most of the time when I come in is I come here to work.
To
If you
work,
get
yeah.
Yes, if I'm working like, 9 to 5, and I'm just doing the safe job at 9 to 5, I'm not going to say anything. I mean, what I do in my life is the reflection of me. What they do in their life is the reflection of their attitude and behavior. So for me, I always like, I'll do my job. That's it. That was just my mentality, because again, what I do is a reflection of my personality and my ethics. But again, what they do is so I don't deal with that. But of course, that's not fair. We all know it's not fair. But again, being the contract nurse, I have to do it, because if I don't, then it might put my job in jeopardy, right, Paul? This is always the sentiment i- of a lot of contractors. If I'm a traveling nurse in the United States and I am experiencing this, what more for international workforce
That is
with
correct.
contracts that are really heavy, one-sided, right? So it's really unfair. Um, what else are we having to face there? We're also facing legal and regulatory issues. A lot of these recruiters are not even paying their orientation, Paul, right?
Correct.
And we all know that they will get away with that because they know that international nurses do not know their labor rights. They don't know that there are organizations. They don't even probably know how Department of Labor works in the Philippines. What more Department of Labor in the United States, right? Majority for international workforce are not very social, civic, and law savvy. w- so what happens there is these nurses will just say, oh, they're doing this to us, and I think this is normal, because they said previous people who got here, they said this is what happened to them too, and this is normal. So when I caught that, Paul, these nurses called me and they were telling me that I only received like 2 days orientation. I said, from the Philippines, from international, you only got two days orientation. I mean, I know they do that in travel nurses, but you
Yeah.
guys are new here,
Travel
right?
nurses that have been here for years. I still do not advise travel nursing for newcomers over here because you only get 2 days orientation.
Yeah, and the sad thing there is you have to remember these contracts are at will contract. And I have heard international nurses coming to me that they never got orientation, and because they were failing their job in their performance at job, in 1 month or 2 months they get terminated. And now, what happens if you get terminated? Well, you're going to have to look at the termination clause of your contract. It says there, if it says there, liquidate, oh my God, sorry, my British accent's coming, liquidated damage, right? Sorry, I'm having like a hiccup. Liquidated damages with future profit losses of the company, you're up, you're screwed. So that liquidated damage with future profits loss can be as high as more than 100,000, $200,000. Maybe that company who served the nurse said, for us, liquidated damage with future profit loss means $400,000. Again, if you Google that, if you research that lawsuit, I'm not making this up. It's there. The nurse was literally sued for $400,000 because of those terms of in the contract says liquidated damage with future profit losses. Um, if you go Google this, Google research, there is a company in New York that the Department of Labor said they cannot have those provisions in the contract wherein a nurse has to pay those provisions that is way beyond their salary. Right. So again, this is an ongoing case. The Department of Labor again sued this company of having those provisions, and the Department of Labor is saying this is illegal. If Department of Labor is already saying those provisions are illegal, I mean, why are we still having it in contract, right? So I recommend, please, people watching us in LinkedIn, hi nurse leaders, hi organizations, please educate
Please
yourself.
listen.
There is a lawsuit in department by the U.S. Department of Labor against a staffing company that they cannot have those provisions. That those provisions are illegal. So if you're a nurse leader watching this, you have to really. Look at the provisions of the contracts of your international nursing workforce. You are a nurse. This is your oversight. If you have nurses who are under human trafficking, debt bondages, please consult your legal team because there are a lot of international nurses who come to the United States and the agency or recruitment staffing are slipping in this contract provisions that is called by the US of Department of Labor as illegal. You don't want to be sitting there as a CNO, right? You don't want to be sitting there and being asked, do you know these contract provisions of your nursing workforce? This is under your jurisdiction. This is not your corporate jurisdiction. This is at your hand. You're the one who's hiring these nurses. So please pay attention to those contract clauses by those international nurses. Um, One more thing that's happening. This is a very good conversation actually that I had with one of our leader from American Nurse Association. She said, Kay, it's not only about being the unethical there that they come here with those provisions. You have to understand you are promoting not me, right? So she meant that the international workforce being poached and there's no sustainability strategy in place, it creates a brain drain from that country. And you and me, Paul, knows that brain drain in the
That's true.
Philippines exists. Brain drain exists, and it's really hurting a lot of our patients from these countries. And she pointed out a very good issue there. Kay, if there is a brain drain of quality nurses from a country, what will happen? These patients will self medicate because there's no resource. And then I come to think about it. I said, Paul, how many over the counter medications do we have in the Philippines? That is not over the counter here in the US. Probably you
Right,
know
right.
that more, Paul, because you're a nurse practitioner and you prescribe.
Mm-hmm.
How accessible are those medications in the Philippines or outside the United States that are usually have to be prescribed here? In your experience, because for me, I have seen so many accessible medication in the Philippines, and I can just say I would prescribe myself one, and I don't, and majority of the pharmacy will use this, unregulated pharmacy script,
Mm. That's what
right?
I was gonna say. Because in the Philippines, for example, in our country, Kay, pharmacy is not as regulated. Here, you can't even pick up scripts that are not medications that there's no script from the provider, right? In the Philippines, well, you can just pick it up from pharmacies. Medications that you needs prescription technically legally, but are not being followed.
Yep. So those are for me. I've experienced like I go home to the Philippines and I buy this because it's hard to get it in the US. So I
Right,
do that.
right.
I personally have done that and I look at it. That is true. And I said, if the people are self-medicating and they don't have proper education in healthcare, what will happen to our antibiotics? Are they going to be are taken properly as prescribed? The answer is no. And then come to the situation is what happens to those antibiotics? Then they become resistant. And then I'm like, that's right. And then now we will develop a lot way more drug resistant medication, which will eventually, this medication's gonna affect us here in the United States. Now we will develop more disease that are drug resistant. And now we're gonna come up with a more expensive medication. That's why healthcare is the most expensive because we have to come up and catch up with those drug resistant medication. MRSA, we all know that.
Mhm, mhm.
This is a big headache for hospitals having those hospital acquired diseases. So then I'm like, it is indeed very, there's so many things that are happening if we are not procuring ethically and if we're not putting rules and regulations there on how to create a sustainable um ecosystem on nursing workforce. So it's very very important topic, and I hope those people watching us at going to the to I think California nursing forum for workforce for a second, national forum for nursing workforce. If you're watching this right now, please discuss this, because when I went there and joined you guys last year in Washington DC, there were a lot of issues that were being raised regarding international recruitment. So please have a discussion on your plans. If you're hiring from the international countries, if you are hiring from donor countries, what is your strategy for sustainability? Are you helping that donor countries to produce their own nurses? Because if you are actually investing in those countries, also investing in their schools to give like scholarship or grants, I think that is fine. But if you're just like getting nurses without helping that donor countries to produce their own, then there is a problem there. That's why I said
Right.
Houston, we have a problem,
We have a
right?
problem. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
For me, okay, my point in brain drain is this. Yes, there's a possibility for brain drain. Everything is a possibility, Kay. It's all about, are we here in the States per se? We're thinking right now as an American, part of the American nursing system, right? Are we gonna hire nurses outside the States or not? If we don't hire, there will be detrimental effects because people will not be able to access care. There will be no nurses taking care of them at the bedside or at many levels of healthcare, right? If we do hire immigrant nurses, then we take those nurses out from those countries that also need them and thus can
Mhm.
create brain drain. But my point here, Kay, is we are not recruiting nurses. But what we do is for people who want to come over here, for people who are already here, we're providing support. We are not saying all Filipino nurses leave the Philippines, right? Or all Nigerian nurses leave Nigeria and move here. We're not saying that.
Yeah.
But people have the ability to navigate, people have the ability to find jobs where they want to, especially for a highly sought after, high demand job like nursing. Nursing has never been much more in demand since the pandemic. Every single country wants to get a nurse, right? But these
Yeah.
countries don't produce much nurses. But in other side of the world, those countries are producing too much nurses, so it kind of balances it out. So yes, brain drain is a possibility, but we're also not gonna tell nurses, you know what? Don't come over here. But you
Yep.
know what? There's more earnings here. Those nurses are gonna move whenever they want to
Yeah.
move. So the point is, for those nurses who want to come over here, we want to pave the way to make sure that they are hired legally, and not only legally, Kay, because it can be legal, like I said earlier, but not ethical, but also
Yeah.
ethically, right? Yes, we're gonna hire
Yes.
you legally, but also we're not gonna impose 400,000 breach fees just to
Yeah.
trap you because yes, it is legal, but that's also screaming human trafficking for me, Kay, because you're forcing me to be working for you so I don't have to pay 400,000, right? But the point is, many nurses coming from outside the US coming over here, they don't know their rights. They don't
Yes.
know the rules. They are scared to speak up because they're always threatened and scared that they're going to be deported if they do so, right? That's why we're doing DNP Unlocked, because there's so many unethical things that some agencies, were not saying all, but there are so
Yeah.
many agencies out there that are also doing this ethically. But scrupulous agencies that are preying on these nurses, because for them it's win-win situation. Okay, if you finish your
Mhm.
contract, they make money. If you don't finish your contract, they're still gonna try
That's
to
that's
make
their
money for
money,
you,
right?
right? Remember, these agencies are not nurses. They don't know what we do in the bedside. They don't respect our jobs. All they see from us is money. But again, not all agencies. I'm saying the unethical agencies. And it's about time, one of our followers right now is talking to us about this. You see this? I mean, we know this, Dean, but yeah, I'm going to mention this since you already mentioned the DOL has already pursued a case against Communicare. Okay, fairly knows about this, just one of the advocates to really get the nurses up and running with the lawsuits. But you see, one nurse
Yeah. Yeah.
already
By the
paid the
way,
breach fee.
Paul,
Yeah.
just want to correct it. I
Oh,
don't
sorry.
think the nurse did pay 50,000. Just want to correct
Mhm.
that dinar. Okay. So I'm very familiar with this case. Um, because what I've known is where there were nurses under their contract, they will have to pay a repayment provision if they quit, right?
Right.
And it was, I think it was somewhere like around close, like somewhere before like 20,000, between 16,000 to 20,000. The exact number is around that number, okay,
Yeah.
but not
The number may be
50,000.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, so then, but there is that's a correct. There has been a
A
Department of Labor
lawsuit.
is involved in this communicator, but not the
Right.
50,000. But
Right.
anyway, it was on the
So
provision.
many
The
other
nurses
cases.
paid it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
paid that actual
Mm-hmm.
amount of the termination fee. But
And
then yet
then
they still got
they
sued for
still got sued.
$100,000. Okay.
Exactly. So there's a contract that says if you resign, if you don't finish the contract, you pay us this much. The nurse paid that much because she
Yes.
doesn't want to work for that company anymore
Yeah.
because that company is not providing her safety and the
Mhm.
ability to think clearly at work. She feels threatened at work. So for her, you know what? I'll just pay this. So she paid,
Yeah.
she left, and then what did the agency do, Kay?
Sued
Filed
her
another
back.
lawsuit. I mean, sued her because she probably left, and that exacerbated
Yeah.
everybody leaving as well. But
Yeah.
you see what they can do,
Yeah.
guys? Is it
Yes.
legal? Probably because they can file a case. They have a right to as employer.
Yeah.
Is it ethical? Okay, for me, it's a
Yeah.
big no.
Yeah, so I want to say that a lot of legal experts that I have reached out say this is not even legal provisions. Okay, so a lot of nurses ask me, Kay, if it's in the contract, is it legal? All of those legal. So I said, well, a contract or a job offer are when you where you sign and they sign, those are now becoming legal documents. Okay, legal documents. But there is a thing called in legal, in legal word, legal professionals say they call it unconscionable contracts. Again, unconscionable
Right.
contracts, they said that it has provisions that are illegal in the United States. One of those nurses from Illinois said to me, Kay, my recruiter sent me another contract on top of my employer. And when I look at that contract by the recruiter's contract saying that she has to give 20% of her paycheck. And this is the rules there, the terms. The nurse has to submit the paycheck, the pay stub, a copy of a pay stub to that recruiter. The recruiter will get 20% of that income, and the nurse has to issue check. She has to issue post-dated checks for the entire time that she's there. So the nurse was paying, was giving pay, this checks, and even over time, the recruiter will get 20%. And then when one and I said this is wrong, consult a lawyer. So they consulted an Illinois lawyer, and the Illinois lawyer said, "Stop! Don't send any more checks." And then the recruiter now, "Hey, you haven't paid me for this month, and then you canceled also the other checks, and I'm gonna sue you." Okay, so there are things called threat of legal action. So I always
Right.
tell these nurses, can the recruiter sue you? Absolutely. Nobody can stop anyone from suing anyone. I can even sue Paul right now for
Right.
having a blue headphones like me. Hey, Paul, you're copying me, right? So I'm saying is you can sue anyone, but the question is, are they going to win? Right.
Correct.
So there are a lot of instances that the cases are just being dismissed. And it was funny because
Mhm.
one nurse leader told me that that employer should be sued more because they're wasting our time, using the court time, using our resources for those nonsense.
Taxpayers' money. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even they know that these lawsuits are gonna lose anyway, but they do it
You're right.
because to
To
threaten
scare
the nurses.
nurses.
Yeah.
Yes, and bring them down to settlement. They
Yeah.
probably don't really want to go all the way to court, Kay. There's multiple
Yeah.
levels. They're just
Yeah.
scaring you so you would
Yeah.
settle in favor of them, which means you
Yeah.
pay them money. But nurses don't get threatened, all right? These
Yeah.
unethical agencies, they need to be sued. But if you keep quiet, if you're this nurse and you're listening right now, if you stay silent, if you don't say anything, imagine how many nurses and how many more lives are these agencies gonna ruin, right? Remember, if they do that to you, they're gonna do it to hundreds more nurses
Yeah. There are
and their families.
thousands.
So
Yeah,
multiply
thousands.
that to their number of family members. The point is, um, if they get away with you, they're going to keep doing that because, like I said, they either make money for you staying in the job or you leaving. Either way, they make money. All right.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
don't get threatened, nurses. We need you in the US. We need you to be functional nurses, not traumatized, had PTSDs because you were bullied. Remember, the law will side you as long as you do everything legally. Document everything, seek a lawyer that will protect you. Call the state,
Yeah.
call your Congress people and Senate people. Everything here, you can email your Congress and Senate people, ask for their help, call the news channel, make noise. This is the information age case. So easy to
Yeah.
contact people now to bring out all these cases. If you are
Yeah.
still scared of doing that, you have anxiety, I'll send you some hydroxyzine to take before you do it. I'm just kidding. The point is, let's speak out. Let's speak
Yes.
out, Kay.
Yeah, we're running out of time, but I'm just gonna go on. What can we do to prevent this, Paul?
Mhm.
What can we do? What can international nurses do?
Okay,
What can
okay.
hospitals?
I'm gonna interrupt you one more time. I'm gonna flash the raffle one more time so we can close it. One more time. Last 1 minute. This is
Last
the raffle.
call.
Last call. We're gonna close. All right. Last 1 minute for the raffle. We're gonna flash the link again. Last 1 minute. It's actually last 40 seconds now. But we're gonna have one winner. We're gonna live stream the draw before we conclude the show. So much great talk. We have previous shows about legalities and red flags of agencies. And today we're doing ethical. We're going to continue this in future episodes, Kay, because we love to talk about these things because so many things are happening down there, Kay. We're hearing new news. We're hearing nurses telling us directly of what's going on in the ground, and I love that they're talking to us, telling us these stories because we need to hear these stories. Okay, we are their advocates after all. All right, and we're gonna close the raffle now.
Yeah, calling for once, calling for twice. Anymore? Calling three times. So yay! Well, we're gonna announce the winners in a
Winner.
few minutes. Hang in there. So what are we gonna do, Paul? How to avoid this international recruitment scrutiny that's happening into our nurses? So
Mhm.
there are code of ethics. Please, if you're listening to this, look into that. What are the code of ethics of recruitment? Who are doing those? So World Health Organization number one has that. It's a voluntary. Okay, voluntary that recruiters have to follow. Again, if it's a voluntary code of ethics, are
Mhm.
they are these agencies and recruiters mandated to follow it? The answer is no. That's where Paul is saying it can be legal and it can be unethical. So if the recruiters are not following it, they're not committing any illegal things. Okay, but if they're not following the code of ethics of recruitment, then they're being unethical if they're not following it. Okay, so it can be unethical, but not necessarily illegal. Number two, who else is doing that? International Council of Nursing do that. There's a code of ethics. Again, if you're talking about World Health Organization and ICN, so they're talking about international. So it covers general code of ethics. Now, in the United States, it's more I think it's stronger because this organization is US based, and of course it implements US according to the US laws. Okay,
Mhm.
the US laws. So there is also CGFNS Alliance, which is I'm honored to be part of it. Again,
Mhm.
CGFNS Alliance for Code of Ethics in Recruitment, International Recruitment. So we have a code there that you guys can see for employers, for nurses, and for the recruiters. So again, it's open and free for everybody to use. Go to CGFNS Alliance and look at the code of ethics, and it will tell you what do you call this one? What are the rights of a nurse? Okay, as an international recruit. Again,
Mhm.
if you are in this group chat, I'm gonna put it in the chat for the link for that. Again, CGFNS Alliance is the one who's creating code of ethics for international recruitment. Another one will be coming out is GNAC. Okay, GNAC is a new organization that I also am trying to help to promote my advocacy for international recruitment. Our international workforce is very, very important. They play a big role. They come here in the United States with so many experience, and they uplift the morals and the quality of healthcare as well. They're very good in contributing a lot of things that are happening outside, and they bring that expertise and experience here in the US. As for me, I was explaining to them what I've learned in the Philippines and what practices we did, and I shared it here in the United States, and they said, "Oh, really? We do that?" Yeah, I said when pandemic came, Paul, when COVID came,
Mhm.
nurses were like, handling so many patients beyond our, our safe practice. But when I said during this practice, what we do in the Philippines is called team nursing. Team
Right.
nursing was what we use in the Philippines if you have high volume of nursing care. And a lot of nurses here in the US did not realize that. We didn't know that. I said, yes, team nursing is, we always do
Mm-hmm.
that in the Philippines. Here, you have primary care model.
Mm-hmm.
So then I have to, explain to them how it works. So when I was in New York City, I was giving that knowledge and the background of that, how team nursing works. So again, our international workforce come with so many experience, and they come with so much wealth of knowledge, and they are very helpful in bringing up the quality of nursing here in the United States. um, who else are there who's advocating for the nurses, Paul? Can you introduce them about Lefora?
Yes, of course. So for us, we have an unofficial group. So earlier we talked about CGFNS Alliance, and then Sienna created GNAC, which is now a separate entity. They are also going to be promulgating policies and also recommendations for ethical recruitment, because we want to be in the business of um, protecting nurses, advocating nurses, and ensuring that nurses can adapt well to the American community, right? That could help nurses really adapt well. One thing less to worry about. But also, we have informal groups like Lefora. We are admins of Lefora, Nurses to USA, originally created for Filipinos, but now we have 220,000 members. This is how DNP Unlocked was created. This is how I met Kay and Anna, same minded people, advocating for nurses. We like to talk about things that may be a little uncomfortable for other people to talk about, but we are here, right? Lefora has been in Facebook for what, since 2016. So coming to 10 years in 2 years. So we're now 8 years down the line, but we are still growing. So much wealth of information there. But also, Kate, this is why, because some people could not join it, or probably because it's predominantly Filipino and Filipino languages there. That's why we're bringing out these topics out of Lefora into the public via DNP Unlocked. All right. So DNP Unlocked is also your resource. We are your advocates. If you need to reach out to me or Kay, you can send Kay a PM and send her an email. But you can also send me an email with your concern. Let us see if we can help you. My email is
Mhm,
info@drnursepaul.com. If you want to talk about your story on a live stream in our podcast, we will
mhm,
definitely invite you. If you want to talk about something, you want us to talk about something, we will definitely talk about that. So just email me, info@drnursepaul.com. Can we flash that, Mr. Moderator? All right. So there you go. Info at drnursepaul.com. That's my email. If you have concerns, issues that we can help you with, something related to advocacy, all right? Um, we're probably going to be able to help you. Can't promise, but we will try. All right.
Yep. So, for me, if you see my name here, is it says Travel Nurse Hacker. And they think that travel nurses are only the United States nurses
Mm-hmm,
who has been practicing in the U.S. for more than 1 year.
mm-hmm.
For me, no. The real travel nurses, the first travel nurses, are really those international nurses who came to the United States, and
Right.
we're talking about way back 1940s, 1940s, 1950s, during the World War II, when the U.S. said we need more nurses here in the United States. We need more nurses helping our troops in the war. So there was that agreement that the Philippines and the United States did before, that Philippines will be one of those key countries who will help produce nurses, and that's where the Philippine nurses became the first, or the top one supplier of nurses in the whole world, because that portion, the United States, invested in the education of nurses. All our books were in English. All the authors of our nursing books are English. Hey Paul, I don't know if I mentioned to you one day that I realized that I'm writing an email to actually one of the authors of the book that I was using in the Philippines. I'm like, wait a minute, she's alive. Yeah, because I thought before when I was young, I was so silly that all the authors of the book are majority are dead, right? um,
Right,
yeah, I mean like those old those foundation nursing books, because we're talking about Florence Nightingale, back
right,
in many
right.
many years.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized, said, holy moly, I'm writing an email, actual email to the author of my book. I said, I remember her name. She's the author of our
Right.
book. So again, the Philippines is one of the countries that are heavy on nursing education, and you will see hundreds of nursing schools there. In like Paul himself became an instructor for NCLEX exam review. So
Right, right.
we have a lot of things that we discuss in Lefora that can
Mm-hmm.
be applicable as well to our foreign international workforce. So please, even if you're not Filipino, you're very free to join this Facebook group, because we're not only talking about specific Filipino things, we're talking about people in the pipeline. If you have questions about the immigration, about the I-140 filing, there are people also who share information there that are actually immigration lawyers that are very helpful to share the information. So again, but social media, whatever you get in social media, take it with a grain of salt, as always, and do your due diligence. But at least you have some place to start with. And the community is very helpful, and we try to manage it as peaceful as it can be compared to other nursing groups that are very hostile in nature. So we try
Mm-hmm.
to maintain it in a professional way. So again, please join that, and also you can reach out to me, Travel Nurse Hacker, in Instagram and in Facebook. What we want to do here is really transparency of information. Okay.
Right, right.
All right. Too many. It's too loaded. Verse already 10, 11. We want to be respectful of your time.
Yes.
So Paul, thank you so
We
much.
Yep,
And
we
thank
are
you
about to
everyone.
announce the winner. Okay, we're
Yes.
gonna draw the winner right now. Okay, let's see. Let's share the screen. We are going to draw the winner. Alrighty. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're about to flash the screen right now. Here are all the
Okay.
names. Woohoo! So many
Yay.
participants today.
Oh my God. How many participants are there?
How many did it say? 75. Wow, 75 entries.
All
All
right.
right. Okay, let's spin the wheel. And the winner, first time we did this, okay? Here's the winner. Who is it?
Cindy.
Cindy Bogo. Congratulations, Cindy. Please contact me and Dr. Nurse Paul. And are you Cindy? Who is Cindy? You won one NCLEX review worth 550. Please talk to Dr. Nurse Paul page right now. Message me, and I'm gonna respond to you. Give you instructions of how to claim your prize. And Kay, I'm also gonna do a one live Q&A. I'm just gonna plug it real quick. I will be online. Kay, you are free to join me, but I will do this for TikTok and Facebook. There will also be winners of NCLEX review, one in Facebook, one in TikTok on May 29. This is Wednesday, 8 a.m. Central. The reason why I'm doing this case because I have so many messages in my page and in my accounts that I cannot answer. There are just too much. So I'm gonna answer everything that is related to what I can answer. NCLEX eligibility, application for NCLEX, job offers, visa options, retrogression, immigration, U.S. life, career, how to buy a house, how to buy a car, everything that I can do within 30 minutes, and there will be one winner as
Oh
well. I'm
my
just
God.
doing
That's a lot. That's a
as
lot
a
of information.
community service. So it's basically open forum. Whatever they want to ask, if I can answer, I will answer. And this is the first time I'm doing it. I'm also going to award one winner. We're going hard before the end of May, which is actually the Nurses Month for me. And you are free to join me, Kay, as well. Thank you to everyone who follows Dr. Nurse Paul, Travel Nursing Hacker. Kay, we also miss our co-host, Anna. Anna is a night
Yeah.
shifter trauma OR nurse. So you can honestly say weekends are usually bad. I don't like weekends in the ER as well for that reason because of traumas. But
Yeah.
yep, we miss you,
Yeah.
Anna.
Miss you, Anna. We'll see you next week. And I would like to thank everyone who joined us in our discussion, who's listening to this podcast replays, and thank you for all those who join in LinkedIn. This is a very important topic that we all have, moral obligation to protect. Nursing is one of the professions that's number one trusted. We have the moral duty to protect our profession, and we can only do that if we all help each other, regardless if we gain financially or not. Whatever you do outside is your thing. But for me, this is my advocacy. This is Paul's advocacy. This is the advocacy of a lot of ethical nurses. If we see something, say something. Okay. Again,
Right.
if we see something, say something. We don't know everything, but at least collaboratively, we can work together to find solutions and to make this, better. Thank you for those people who are engaging in the group chat. Unfortunately, we ran out of time and we don't have any more time to go over. But quickly, Paul, Zoe said, can we sue back facility if they fire us even though nutrition wasn't enough? Zoe, the right answer there is you have to discuss this case with a lawyer, okay? And when you pick a lawyer, make sure that you pick a lawyer that's not affiliated with that employer. You cannot go with with the same lawyer that the hospital is using. You cannot go to the lawyer who's using the same immigration attorney. Okay, so
Get a
again,
lawyer that protects you.
yes, somebody that you will pay out of pocket. Some of them are actually free. If you go to American Bar, there will be a lot of list there, but you have to do background check of that lawyer first. Make sure that they don't have this thing called conflict of interest. Okay, Camilo, can do this, can do that, set up some. we don't want, we don't promote, we don't promote. What do you call this one? Violence. Okay, keep your hands to yourself, Camilo. Number one rule in the United States: keep your hands to yourself. I know it's a joke.
Right, right.
I know that what you mean is a joke, but DNR, thank you so much for posting those comments. I appreciate you going over that. We will have to some of them I will go over the comments and I will actually respond, okay? Because we're running out of
Yeah.
time. We will respond to those
Dean,
comments. Dean,
Dean,
thank you
thanks
so
for
much
your
for
research.
sharing. Yeah, I
Send me
know.
a message, Dean. I want to talk to you. You can be our DNP researcher. No, thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your time. Yes. And
Yeah,
again,
thank you
Kay,
so
one
much.
more time.
Appreciate it. Mhm.
DNP Unlocked is now available on your favorite podcast app. We are now live in Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Music. We are also in YouTube and Facebook. We are everywhere, anywhere you want, anytime you want, on any device that you want. Subscribe now to DNP Unlocked, the immigrant nurse for podcast for immigrant nurses by immigrant nurses.
Thank you so much, all, for joining us, and have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend here in the
You
United
too.
States.
Have a
Yeah,
great weekend,
yeah,
Kay.
yeah. International nurses, your recruiters will not respond tomorrow. Tomorrow's a Monday. Tomorrow's a holiday.
Holiday.
Don't bombard them with emails. Don't say that your recruiters are not responding. The recruiters here in the United States are on federal vacation today. I mean, tomorrow is a federal holiday. Okay, so have a nice weekend, everyone.
I'll
Bye.
see you guys May 29, live Q&A with Dr. Nurse Paul. Bye.